microbit tutorial on encrypting radio signals using if statements. Right now, you should have this code for Vilbot to communicate with Mr. Whiskers. How this code works: Vilbot and Mr. Whiskers are both in radio group 100. When Vilbot presses the A button on her microbit, it sends the message or string help. And when Vilbot presses the B button, it sends the message or string safe. On Mr. Whiskers' microbit, he has the on radio received string command. So whenever this help string reaches his microbit, it will show the words help on the screen. Similarly, whenever he receives the safe string, it will show the words safe on the LED. Now we can look at that happen over here. If I press this button, we see help. And if I press the B button, it sends the words safe. Now this is great for communicating, but unfortunately, a villain has figured out that Vilbot and Mr. Whiskers are using radio group 100. So all the villain needs to do is have this command here, on radio received, receive string, show string. And this villain can listen in on any of these messages being sent back and forth between Vilbot and Mr. Whiskers. That is where we are going to encrypt our code. So what we're going to do, instead of sending the words help when the A button is pressed, we're going to go ahead and delete this code. And instead, we're going to send a number. In this case, when the A button's pressed, we'll send the number 0. For the B button, instead of sending the string safe, we'll send a secret code of the number 1. So now, when the A button's pressed, the number 0 is sent. When the B button's pressed, the number 1 is sent. Now, the receiving microbit, so Mr. Whiskers' microbit, is going to receive either a 0 or a 1. He's not receiving a string. So let's go ahead and delete this. But he is receiving a number. So when his microbit receives a number, it's either going to be a 0 or a 1. And here's where we get to use a handy coding technique called if statements. We'll go to logic. We'll click on this if button. The way an if statement works is if something happens, then carry out an action. A good way to think about this is if I am hungry, then I will eat. So in this case, if Mr. Whiskers receives the number 0, we'll show the words safe. So if, we need to use this box called comparison. Oops. Drag it in to here. If the received number is equal to 0, then show the string safe. Now what happens if Mr. Whiskers receives the number 1? Well, we can do pretty much the same thing. If, we'll drag that in here. We need that comparison operator. If the received number is equal to 1, then we'll show the words help. Great. This code does essentially the same thing as the earlier code. when when button A is pressed, we send the number 0, which causes the string safe to appear. And when the button B is pressed, we send the number 1, which causes the words help to appear. Why this is helpful is because someone listening in, like a villain, even if they knew we were on radio group 100, they would only be receiving 0s and 1s. Unless they know what our code is, so unless they know that 0 means safe and 1 means help, there's no way they could figure out what we're talking about. Great, so try this out for yourself. Modify your code for Vilbot and Mr. Whiskers, and use if statements and numbers to encrypt your own messages. Good luck.